and welcome to the second lesson for Like a Rolling Stone Bob Dylan. So different guitar, different tuning this time. Now the previous one, previous video, you can check that out first. That was actually in the original key, so you could play along with his recording. We're back in D-A-D, so it's a much lower tuned guitar this time. So it's the same as the first 12-bar blues lesson we looked at. And we were saying there, quick reminder that the benefits are, you've got much deeper sounding strings, so if you're playing with distortion you can get quite a nice sort of rich sound. It's a different tone, plus there's certain songs where you can play them in the same keys as the originals. And we can't necessarily do that if we're in G. But what we're going to do in this lesson is we're taking Like a Rolling Stone and we're going to play it in this new tuning, and we're going to change the key of it. And it's like an exercise, but we're doing it as an exercise so you can see how you can like transpose songs. So you can use it to say fit your particular vocal range. You can decide if you need to put the original song up or down, but also you can adapt songs. So say if you find a song you really like and you get the chord sequence off the internet or what have you, but you find it's not working very well with the standard GDG tuning that we normally use, you can drop your guitar, you can put it into something different, and then you can take all of the chords and you can move them up or down according to how this new tuning, how the open strings are. So I'll cover all of that. It probably sounds a bit confusing, but first of all let's just tune up and then we shall continue. So here's our low D, here's our middle A, and here's our highest D. Okay, so these notes are actually 5 frets lower than normal open G tuning. Here at fret 5, that's what the other guitar sounds like. It's G, D, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D, A, D. So much deeper, quite a big distance between those notes. Okay. Now, how does that work? Well, let's just have a quick look at this fretboard diagram. So we've got D, we'll just do it on the top string, and we'll just look at what we call the natural notes to start with. So that's just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, not sharps or flats. So we've got D, fret 2 is E, F is right next door on fret 3, G is fret 5, A is fret 7, B is fret 9, C is right next door as well, and then on fret 10, and then the octave on fret 12 is the same as where we started, D. Okay, so that's what our notes, our strings are now tuned to. The frets now give us those notes when we hit them. Okay, and so what that means is, with this tuning, it's in fact exactly the same shapes and chords like we were explaining before in relation to what we've learned in the standard G tuning, but they've all got different names now. So say in the previous tuning you might know that just hitting fret 4 on the top string with some open strings, you might know that as a G chord. So it's now a D. And you might know this one, so just fret 2 on the low and the high strings and the open middle string, you might know that as D or D5, D power chord, but it's not, it's now A power chord, an A power chord. You might know that fret 5 and fret 2 as a C in the previous tuning. It's now a G. You might know that as E minor in the previous tuning, but it's now B minor. Confused yet? let's just work it out quickly. So basically, the first chord, D. So let's find a G. Okay, so I'll do it on this string. So going back to our diagram, there's a high G. Now just count down 5 frets. Why do I count down 5 frets? Because all of our strings are now the equivalent of 5 frets lower than what we were tuned to before. So here's a G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fret 7. Before that was a D chord. Okay, in standard G tuning. If you can see that. So G 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down to fret 7. That was a D. So that means that every time we play a G, it now sounds like a D instead. This chord here was a D5. So let's go back to G. So there's D on the top string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fret 2, that is now an A. So instead of this being a D5, it's now an A5 chord, because when we retune it, it's that. C. C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Open string. So instead of that being a C chord, which it is in G tuning, it's now a G chord, because that's 5 frets lower. And then finally, the last one, E. There's an E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fret 4, so 5 frets lower. Fret 4 was a B in G tuning. So change it, and instead of being an E minor, it's now a B minor. Okay, so it's all what you call relative. You knock everything down by exactly the same amount each time, and that's transposing. Just take an entire chord sequence and, in this instance, knock it down 4 frets. Okay. So, I mean, you can work all that out in your head. So there's a couple of PDFs available, however, which might be useful on the website. So there's one of them, which is just in standard G tuning, and it gives you all of our sort of open chords and a bunch of like bar chords and like sort of movable shapes and things. Open chords are just where you have some open strings alongside some fretted notes. So there's a whole bunch of different chords which will cover, you know, a real sort of wide range of songs that you can play on 3 strings. So that's available for download. Dead useful, really helpful to support the site as well if you're interested. But there's also another one which is in this new tuning. So all of the shapes, as you can see, all of the chord shapes and actually all scale patterns are the same physical shapes and patterns, but they're now called a different name. They've now got different notes, so they're a different name. So instead of, you know, you can completely work it out in your head. I mean, it's quite good to do that, but if you want a reference, you can download that as well. And not only does it have the chords in it, but it has exactly the same chords, but in the new key for the new tuning. But it also has 7 different scales as well, which you know will relate to songs that are more riff based as opposed to chord based. So you've got pentatonics, you've got blues scales, you've got 7-note major and minor scales, and also we're going to be doing some songs where we're going to tune up 2 frets to E instead of D, because there's certain songs like Stones, Bowie and a couple of others where it's actually easier to play them in E tuning as opposed to D. So all of those are replicated in the key of E as well. So they're just really good reference sheets. So go to the website and check those out if you want. But what we're going to do is we're going to take Bob Dylan and we're going to knock him up a tone. So that means we're going to make every single chord sound 2 frets higher. and the original song was in the key of C. So 2 frets higher than C is D. So we're going to change like a Rolling Stone, and we're going to change it, we're going to transpose it into the key of D major. So it's going to be like this. So just a very quick recap on this fretboard diagram again. So we've got the natural notes D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Okay, we've missed some notes out there, and they are sharps or flats. You can call them a different name depending on what song you're playing. So fret 1 is now either classed as a D sharp or an E flat. A sharp is 1 step higher in pitch, like it sounds 1 step higher than D. Or an E flat sounds 1 step lower than E. And then E and F are right next door to each other. F sharp is fret 4, 1 step higher than F, or you can call it G flat, which is 1 step lower. G is fret 5, A is fret 7, so G sharp is fret 6, or you can call it A flat. A, B is fret 9, so A sharp is fret 8, B flat is the same note, it's fret 8 as well. B and C are right next door to each other. C sharp or D flat is fret 11, and then we've got the octave. Okay, so you'll see why I've covered that when we change all of the chords into this new key. Okay, as what we need to do when we count up 2 frets each time. It's not like 2 frets isn't A, B, C. It's 2 frets. So in this instance, it would be A sharp, B. So B is actually 2 frets higher than A, because A sharp is also a note. So we don't go A, B, C. That's 3 notes, 3 frets. Sorry. So every single chord needs to be raised by 2 frets. So, for example, C is fret 10. Knock it up 2 frets, that gives us a D. So the song's in the key of D. And then F, which is the second chord in the song, because the original song went C to F in the introduction. So C to F. So F, we need to change that key now. F, F sharp, G. So F becomes a G instead, which is 2 frets higher. So the intro is D to G. Here's the chords in that new tuning. So D is this one on fret 4, and then G is what we were thinking of as C before, the C shape. Fret 5, fret 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what we're doing in the intro now. The verse starts on D again. Straight away there's a new chord here, D. Well, that's what it was before. We need to knock it up by 2 frets now. D, D sharp, E. So we need to go to E instead. I'm going to do a power chord, because otherwise that's a bit horrible. You might find, depending on how high your action is, you might find it quite tough doing that. So just a bar on fret 2, that's fine. The next chord, this is in the verse, so was previously E minor. Well, there's an E in our new tuning. 2 frets higher, E, F, F sharp. Oh, right. We've picked out a sharp because E and F are right next door to each other. So I can't go up 1 fret, I have to go up 2 frets. Everything's got to go up 2 frets. So I've now got F sharp or F sharp minor. So here is. So I can either bar it, and I can get my pinky finger, so that's fret 4 bar, fret 7. Again, depending on how thick your strings are, you might find that quite tough. You could keep the open string and just play fret 4 on the strings 3 and 1. I think that one sounds nicer, I'm going to use that, but if you find it difficult, you can do that instead. And then we're going to F, which is now G again. We worked that out in the intro, so there's our G. And then finally, in the original key, we hit a G chord next. There's a G, and we've got to go up 2 frets, so G becomes A in the new tuning. There's a free download available for both keys for this song. So there's the original one in the key of C major and also this new one in the key of D major. So please go to the site, check it out. It'll probably help if you have them both next to each other, so you can see how it works changing the key. Okay, but in the verse we start, so in the new key we start on D, we go to E power chord, just a bar there, fret 4, I'm going to see if we can do this, bar, add your pinky finger, fret 7, and then G, quite difficult to change that, and then A. Well, there's an A power chord, or I can hit fret 7. An actual A major is like that, so you're barring on fret 11, that might be a bit of a horrible stretch. But it would be absolutely fine to just pick out a power chord there, and a power chord there, that would work fine. So D, E power chord, I'm going to try and do the minor, F sharp minor, G, A power chord, and do it again. If you can't play the F sharp minor, you can just do power chords. Sounds pretty good. You can even just do a G power chord, you know, you can just step up like that. That actually works pretty well if any of these chord shapes are difficult. So as we were saying in the previous song, there's only actually the previous key, the previous video for the song, there's only actually 5 chords in the entire song, but he does mix them up a lot. He jumps around between them all. So I think it'd definitely be useful if you had the chart. So there's no tab there because it's, you know, copyright issues. There's just like a basic chart, just sort of mapping out the chord sequence. So you know, download that, it's free, be quite helpful. But we've changed the key of all 5 into this new key in D. So I'm just going to play through it very quickly, and you can try and play along. The previous video I went a little bit into sort of strumming patterns and different rhythms that you can play, so you might want to check that one out. But let's go back to the close-up and we'll just have a quick blast through. Alright, so I'm going to do the whole song now all the way through to the chorus. So if you get the chart ready, maybe just like listen and read through the first time, and then you can, you know, rewind this and have a play the second time. So here we go, 3, 4, so D, G, D, G. Repeat that. There's quite a lot of repeats in this. So 4 times in total from D to G. Here's the verse, so D, E minor, F sharp minor, G to A. There's a little variation, fret 7, repeat that, D, so it's actually E power chord, sorry, and then F sharp minor, G to A, to G, repeat that, G, to A, start the pre-chorus, isn't it? Then G to F sharp minor to E to D, repeat that. G to F sharp minor to E minor to D, back to E minor or E5, then G, and then to A. Let's go up, D, G, A. Just repeat this now. So transposing and you know, playing songs in different tunings. Nice sort of rich sound this. So I hope that was useful. We're going to be continuing along this vein, and we're going to be having a look at some songs in E tuning. So it's basically like taking these notes and knocking them up 2 frets, and we're going to be, instead of changing the key of the songs, we're actually going to be playing them in the same key as the originals. So Jumping Jack Flash, Rebel Rebel, Stones, Bowie, a couple of classic 70s, 60s I think for Jumping Jack Flash, but vintage tunes, but we're going to play them in the original key in E tuning. So please consider downloading the fantastically useful PDFs, be helpful for yourselves and support the channel as well. And we'll see you here very soon on Coda Guitar.